The title for today's lesson is Adding and Subtracting Fractions with Unlike Denominators. Pause the video to write your title down in your table of contents and at the top of the page, and to find out what teaks we are working with today. We're working with two teaks today, 5.3H and 5.3K. Whoa, my pen got away from me there a little bit. So we're dealing with two teaks today. One is modeling and one is actually adding and subtracting fluently. So make sure you get those written down. All right, you're going to need your fraction strips now for a few problems. Let's take a look at 1/3 plus 1/2. So you're going to model 1/3 plus 1/2. And since we're adding, we want to know what the total of these together is. So 1/3 plus 1/2. But one's orange, one's pink, one has a denominator 3, one has a denominator 2. So I need to make these two fractions look the same so that I can actually add them. And the way to do that is you want to figure out what your least common denominator is. And we do that by looking for our least common multiple. So our least common multiple of 2 and 3 is 6. So we're going to use our 6th fraction strips and line them up directly underneath to find out what our answer to this addition problem is. All right, and they should line up perfectly, and we can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6. So our answer to this problem is 5, 6. Now I want you to take a look at these numbers. And a common mistake that some fifth graders make is adding straight across. 1 plus 1 is 2, but we can clearly see it's 5. And 3 plus 2 would be 5, but we can clearly see our denominator 6. So we're going to find out how this works numerically, but in the pictures we can see that 1/3 plus 1/2 is 5, 6. Okay, clear your tiles. Let's do another. 1/2 minus 2/5. So this time we're subtracting. So I'm going to take 1/2 and I'm going to get my 2/5 out here. Now I'm not adding, so I don't want to find out how much this is all together. I want to take my half, which here's my half, and I want to take away 2/5. So I'm going to put 2/5 underneath it. Oops. And I'm going to, I see that 2/5 comes right about here. Oops, that line's a little crooked, but that's all right. So I can see that if I take 2/5 away from the 1/2, so I'm going to take those away, this right here is my answer. This is what my answer is. So I've got to figure out how much that is. Well, I'm confused at which fraction strip to use. So I want to try to find my least common multiple of 2 and 5. What would be my least common multiple of 2 and 5? 10. Right, so let's use a 10th and see if we can fit it in that space right there. Oh, and we can. So our answer is 1/10. So here's another example that shows you can't just subtract straight across. 1 minus 2, we can't even do that. That's good math because 2 is your larger number. And the same for 2 minus 5. It's not 10. And so we're going to talk about how this would work with numbers. Let's take a look at some fraction strips real quick. All right, so I have 3/8 plus 1/4. And so I have 3/8 modeled here, and I want to add it to 1/4. So I want to find out how much all together. If I just scoop my circles over, what has happened to the second circle? I've just divided it the same way I divided the first circle, into eighths. So my answer to this problem is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 eighths. Okay, take a look at another one. Here we're subtracting. I have 1/2 and I want to take away 2/5. So here's what I have, and I want to take away this much. Well, I can't, like, that's adding. I see how much is all together, so that's not really going to work. So I need to divide these pies the same way. So what is my least common multiple of 2 and 5? 10. So look, I have these handy dandy circles right here already cut into 10. So I'm going to cut that one up, and I'm going to cut this one up. And I can see that I have 1/2 here modeled just a little bit differently as 5/10 and 2/5. And I want to take this much away from here. So I'm just going to count 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So my answer is right there. My answer is 1/10. All right, let's move on to the steps to doing it without pictures. All right, I want you to copy these steps down in your journal because you're going to need them for your assignment later. So I want you to copy the steps down. I'm going to erase them one at a time. Step 1, find the LCD. Pause the video so that you can write it down. LCD is the same as your least common multiple. Step 2, rename your fractions. Step 3, solve. And step 4, simplify using your GCF. Okay, pause the video to make sure you have all 4 of those steps written down. All right, now let's move on to a problem. Write this problem down in your journal. 3/8 plus 5/12. All right, we're going to take this one step at a time. Find our least common denominator. So I want to find the least common denominator of 8 and 12. That would be the same as my least common multiple. If I listed my multiples of 12 first, I can see that I can get to, this is a multiple of 8 right there, 24. Okay, so 24 is going to be my least common multiple. Okay, so we found my least common denominator. Now I'm going to do step 2. Rename the fraction. So I'm going to rename 3/8. Well, I know that 8 times 3 is 24. So if I multiply this by 3, then I have to do the same to the top, times 3. 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, now I'm going to ask myself 12 times what is 24? Times 2. If I do it to the bottom, I gotta do it to the top. 5 times 2 is 10. Now I can add because my denominators are all the same. Those pizzas are cut into the same number of pieces. 9 plus 10 is 19. Okay, so I kind of jumped ahead. I went ahead and did step 3. I solved. Step 4 is simplify and regroup. So back here, we stated that we're going to simplify by using our greatest common factor. Well, if I take a look at 9 and 24, I'll just rewrite it. 19, I'm sorry, I said 9, but I meant 19. 19 and 24. 19 is a prime number, so its only factors are 1 and 19. So 19 and 24 aren't going to have any factors in common because I know that 19 is not a factor of 24. So I do not simplify this answer. That's my final answer. Okay, so let's talk about simplifying. When your answer is a fraction, you are often asked or expected to write your answer in simplest terms. For example, 15/20 equals 3/4. To simplify a fraction, all you need to do is think of a number that you can divide both numbers by. This is where knowing your math facts and how to find the GCF come in very handy. So let's go back up here to our example, 15/20. What is my greatest common factor of 15? Remember, we find the greatest common factor by listing the factors. And if I listed the factors of 15 and 20, I can see that my greatest common factor is 5. So I can divide the top and the bottom both by 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 20 divided by 5 is 4. All right, let's see if we can practice that with a problem. 5/6 minus 1/3. Okay, so the turkey here is telling us to remember step 1. What is step 1? Find the least common denominator. Now, you don't have to do this, but I like to write my problems vertically so that I can have some room to work and put my equivalent fractions side by side. Okay, step 2 is to step 1 is find the least common denominator, and I know that the least common multiple of 6 and 3 is going to be 6. All right, 6 times what is 6? 1. So if I multiply 5 by 1, I get 5 again. 5/6 equals 5/6. That's the truth, right? Okay, 3 times what is 2? Oh, 3 times what is 6? 2. So 1 times 2 is 2. Now my denominators are the same, so I can do step 3, solve. 5 minus 2 is 3, and my denominator stays the same. Now, step 4 is to simplify or rename using your GCF. So what is my greatest common factor of 3 and 6? Well, if I list out all my factors, this is all I come up with. So what is my greatest common factor? 3. So I can divide the top and the bottom both by 3. What I do to the bottom, I gotta do to the top. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now, if we take a look at these answers, let's just see if they make sense. 3/6. Is 3 half of 6? Yeah, 3/6 is equal to a half. Okay, why don't you pause the video and try this one on your own? Okay, I've rewritten my problem vertically. My least common denominator is going to be 15 because that's my least common multiple. I can leave 8/15 as 8/15. I know that 3 times 5 is 15, so 1 times 5 is 5. Now I can subtract. I just solved. Step 4 is to rename. So my greatest common factor, my GCF of 3 and 15, list them out here if you can't remember or if you can't figure it out. 1 times 15. My greatest common factor is going to be 3. 3/15 is equal to 1/5. Okay, let's try another one. I have 3 fractions I'm having to work with. If you're willing to try this one on your own, go ahead and try this one on your own. You can pause the video. And my answer is 7/8. Now my step 4 is to simplify, but is there a common factor between 7 and 8? They don't have any common factors, so that is my simplified answer, 7/8. Okay, we're going to work one more We're going to work one more problem. Blake is baking brownies to take to a party. The recipe calls for 1/3 cup of sugar, 3/8 cup of flour, and 1/4 cup of butter. What is the total amount of ingredients needed to make the brownies? All right, I want you to pause the video, work this one on your own, and when you restart the video, your completed answer will be on there. Okay, and your final answer is 23/24 cups. I forgot to label my answer. 23/24 cups. That's almost one whole. 24/24 is a whole. Not quite, but almost one whole. All right. Take a look at your agenda and you'll see that You need to complete your study island lessons and your worksheet. Depending on how much time you have, you can choose to do either one first, because tomorrow you'll be able to finish what you don't get done today.